Admiral Zex Thera of the Galactic Coalition watched the tactical display with growing unease. 47 fleets from across 6 star systems had assembled in the Kepler 442 system, their combined armadas representing the largest military force ever gathered in galactic history. Over 10,000 vessels of every class hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of the binary stars. And yet, facing this overwhelming force was a single human ship. The vessel appeared unremarkable at first glance, a sleek, angular craft, roughly 2 kilometers in length, its matte black hull seeming to absorb the starlight around it. No decorative elements adorned its surface, no proud emblems or battle honors. It simply existed, floating motionless in the void, like a predator waiting to strike. Scan results are inconclusive, Admiral, reported Lieutenant Kethval, his forearms trembling slightly as he manipulated the sensor controls. The human vessel appears to be constructed from materials we cannot identify. Energy readings are minimal, but there's something underneath, something our instruments cannot penetrate. Admiral Zex Thera's primary eyes narrowed, while her secondary pair continued monitoring fleet positions. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage only 50 years ago, a species dismissed by most as technologically primitive. Their early ships had been crude fusion-powered craft, barely capable of interstellar travel. The Coalition had largely ignored them, focusing instead on the ongoing territorial disputes between the established powers. That had been a mistake. 3 months ago, human explorers had claimed the resource-rich Vega Proxima system, sparking outrage among the Coalition members who had long considered it within their sphere of influence. When diplomatic protests failed, the Coalition had assembled this massive fleet to demonstrate their superiority and force humanity's withdrawal. Admiral, the communications officer announced, the human vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through. The holographic display shimmered, revealing the face of a human female. Captain Sarah Chen, according to intelligence reports, former Earth Defense Force, now commanding the vessel designation UES Prometheus. Her expression was calm, almost serene, as she regarded the assembled armadas. Coalition fleets, Captain Chen began, her voice carrying clearly across the communication array. You have 3 minutes to withdraw from this system. After that time, any vessel remaining will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Laughter rippled across the Coalition bridge crews. Admiral Zex Thera felt her mandibles click in amusement. 1 ship against 10,000, the human's arrogance knew no bounds. Captain Chen, Admiral Zex Thera, responded, "Surely you must realize the futility of your position. Surrender now, and we will allow your crew to depart in escape pods." Captain Chen's expression didn't change. 2 minutes, 50 seconds. The communication cut. Admiral Zex Thera turned to her tactical officer. "Begin the attack. All ships, advance and—" "Admiral!" Lieutenant Kethval's voice cracked with panic. "The human ship, it's changing." On the main display, the UES Prometheus began to unfold. What had appeared to be a single vessel revealed itself as something far more complex. Sections of the hull peeled away like flower petals, exposing a crystalline core that pulsed with impossible energies. Smaller components detached from the main structure, each one racing outward in perfectly calculated trajectories. Energy spike detected. Someone shouted. Massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system. Admiral Zex Thera watched in horror as space itself began to warp around the human vessel. The laws of physics seemed to bend at its will, creating distortions that her instruments couldn't properly measure or comprehend. "All ships, emergency evasive maneuvers," she commanded, but it was already too late. The first wave of Coalition vessels simply disappeared. One moment they were there, massive dreadnoughts and cruisers representing the pinnacle of their respective civilizations' technology. The next, they were gone, not destroyed, not vaporized, but erased from existence, as if they had never been built. Quantum cascade failure detected in Sector 7, a technician reported. The human weapon is creating localized space-time fractures. More ships vanished in brilliant flashes of exotic radiation. The UES Prometheus moved through the battlefield like a scythe through wheat, its modular components dancing in perfect synchronization as they rewrote the fundamental constants of reality in their immediate vicinity. Admiral Zexthara realized she was witnessing technology centuries beyond anything the galaxy had previously imagined. The humans hadn't just advanced, they had transcended conventional understanding of physics entirely. Time remaining, she barked. 90 seconds since their ultimatum began. The slaughter continued. Entire fleet formations collapsed into artificial black holes that winked out of existence moments later. Energy beams that seemed to ignore shields and armor cut through the Coalition's finest ships as if they were made of paper. Some vessels tried to flee, but the space around them folded in impossible ways, trapping them in gravitational prisons. "Admiral, we have to retreat," her first officer pleaded, but there was nowhere to run. The human ship had somehow locked down the entire system, preventing faster-than-light travel. They were trapped in a controlled environment, laboratory rats waiting for the experiment to conclude. With 30 seconds remaining on Captain Chen's deadline, less than 100 Coalition ships remained operational out of the original 10,000. Admiral Zexthara's flagship was among the survivors, though she suspected that was by design rather than luck. The UES Prometheus reassembled itself, folding back into its deceptively simple configuration. Captain Chen's face reappeared on the display, her expression unchanged. 4 minutes 12 seconds, she announced clinically. Longer than projected, but acceptable parameters. Admiral Zexthara, you and your remaining vessels will return to Coalition space immediately. You will inform your governments that humanity claims sovereignty over all systems within a 50 light-year radius of Sol. Any incursion into this space will result in consequences far more severe than today's demonstration. Admiral Zexthara found her voice after several attempts. What? What are you? Captain Chen tilted her head slightly. We are what you forced us to become, Admiral. Evolution is often driven by necessity. The transmission ended, and the human vessel simply vanished, not gradually, not with fanfare, but instantaneously, as if it had stepped sideways into another dimension entirely. In the aftermath, as the surviving Coalition ships limped home with their impossible story, the galaxy would come to understand that humanity had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. They had become something beyond biological limitation, beyond conventional technology. They had become gods of war wrapped in the flesh of mortals. And the universe would never be the same.